This generation, console buyers are being faced with a choice that they've never really had to make before. It used to be that a new console launched and it had these capabilities, and that was it. But now the Xbox Series X and Series S are launching with distinctly different prices and capabilities, and the choice between them is not necessarily a simple one. This one's 4K and ray tracing, and this one's 1440p, but then there's no 1440p TVs, and it does support ray tracing, but game developers are coming out and saying, oh, well, our game, it's not gonna be able to ray trace on that thing. So it's becoming a lot more like buying a PC. And like a PC, you can look at the spec sheet, but that doesn't mean anything to the vast majority of people. It comes down to the experience. So LG sponsored this video where we're gonna be taking the TV out as a variable because we know that their C10 48-inch OLED is freaking awesome for the next generation consoles. And we're gonna be trying them out side by side. 1X, 1S, which one should you pick? Before we begin, let's talk about our setup here. Each of our consoles is connected to a different HDMI port at the back of the TV. This is going to allow us to quickly switch inputs and compare both image quality and performance nearly side by side between our two Xboxes. One of the reasons that this works is that the C10 has a ton of gaming-oriented features, starting with the fact that every one of its inputs has full support for 4K, 120 Hz, along with all the other HDMI 2.1 goodness, including auto low latency mode, including NVIDIA G-Sync, even though that's a PC-specific gaming feature, as well as support for all the usual HDR modes, including HDR10, HLG, and Dolby Vision. In addition to that, LG is a member of the HGIG, or HDR Gaming Interest Group, which has the goal of both leveling the playing field between gamers who are on displays of different capabilities and making sure that HDR games look their best. Naturally, of course, you've got all the usual OLED benefits like perfect blacks and, of course, nearly instantaneous pixel response times, which is something that we actually showed in our previous video using this puppy as a desktop monitor, which was pretty sick. Should we start with a boot up test, actually? Get this unplugged, make sure it is off. I'm really excited about this because at $200 cheaper, if it still provides like a pretty darn good gaming experience, I think a lot of people are gonna go for this puppy. Like, look how small it is. Got the cooling fan right there. It's freaking tiny. I mean, who needs more than 4 teraflops, right? You still got the storage expansion slot, although it should be noted that it only comes with half of the storage out of the box compared to the Xbox Series X. 3, 2, 1, go. Brandon. Okay.
When are we done?
Now.
20 seconds.
20 seconds. Okay. I'm not really expecting this to be any different. 3, 2, 1, go. Because the storage of the systems is rated at the same speeds, but there still could be some because the CPU, even though it's still 8 cores, is slightly slower in the Series S, and actually the GDDR6 memory that also acts as system RAM is slower as well, so maybe. All right, 20 seconds for both. No appreciable difference. Now let's do a game launch. 3, 2, 1, go. For this, I actually don't want to just go until the game menu. So I'm gonna go through it as fast as I can to jump into game, but I want to actually load into a level. Continue. And there we go.
Minute 5.
Minute and 5. That's it. A minute to be gaming. 3, 2, 1. Fun fact, last time we featured this TV, we said that in game mode, color accuracy was compromised, but there's actually 2 workarounds for that. You can calibrate the game mode just as much as you can calibrate any other mode, or what's fun is if you switch over to variable refresh rate, any mode, even filmmaker mode, is just as low latency as game mode. That actually did feel a little faster.
Only 4 seconds faster.
4 seconds faster. That is faster, but in either case, you're gonna be up and gaming in a matter of about a minute, assuming that you didn't fully power off your console. It's freaking awesome. Now let's go find some textures to look at. One of the things I've heard is that the Series S might actually quick resume faster than the Series X, because even though its memory is slower, it has to load in lower resolution textures because at 4K, you're only actually rendering at 1440p and upscaling. So let's see how much worse they look, at least in Assassin's Creed Valhalla here. Man, other than being a little softer, I wouldn't look at that and go like, oh yeah, this is way worse. Our character's face looks way better on the Series X though. Look at that fuzzy face. From close up, the breath effect looks really pixelated and kind of crappy, but from here, it doesn't make a difference. Honestly, from here, I'd be hard pressed to tell the difference between the two of them. Of course, there's more to texture quality than just what you get standing still. Assassin's Creed Valhalla has this feature where you can use your bird to like scout and place markers and stuff like that. And what we noticed when playing around with it is, watch this. On the S, there is some pretty serious texture pop in. Let's try the same thing on the X. And yep, wow. Still terrible. Okay. Well, that's rough. That's the kind of thing that, I mean, if there was an advantage one way or the other, that would be a much bigger difference maker to me than, you know, slightly sharper details. While we're up here in the sky, we've got a good opportunity to have a look at draw distance. So just because close-up objects look very close between the two of them doesn't mean that far away objects will have as much detail on the Series S. Seems fine, honestly.
If there's a difference at all, it kind of looks like on this S that there's just like more atmosphere between you and those far mountains. Yeah. Just a little fuzzier.
This is the X, and immediately I'm noticing a lot of the same things I noticed last time I played around with the X. Like, this thing is pretty flippin' smooth. Now this is where I'm expecting the difference in teraflops to hurt the S a little bit. Let's try and fight some dude. Oh, hey, wow. Yeah, that chug is immediately noticeable. And remember, this is in spite of the fact that it renders at a lower resolution and upscales it. Let's try some more games. This is interesting. The similarity in image quality between the two consoles in Assassin's Creed Valhalla might just come down to a ton of optimization from Ubisoft, because Doom Eternal is a game that I'm more familiar with and is a little bit easier for me to tell, like, oh, are we running at high details or low details? And let me show you, ladies and gentlemen, something here. What? This looks like dog crap. And you can tell why. It's clearly because id felt that it was more important to maintain 60 FPS for smoothness than to have the game actually look good. Like here, come on, let's go back to the other one here. Wow, that is a night and day difference. Look at this. That's like PC very, very high image quality. This is, honestly, I'd be surprised if an Xbox One X doesn't look better than this. Really though, the takeaway today, because we could only try a limited number of games, especially next generation ones, is not exactly what the image quality or frame rate differences that we saw were, but rather what they could look like depending on the implementation that various game developers go for. So id, for example, went, yeah, frame rate's the most important thing. We are going to just crank down the image quality until it meets that frame rate target that we have. Whereas Ubisoft, with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, said, hey, we want this game to look great, regardless of what hardware it's being run on, and we're willing to compromise on the frame rate because this is a more experiential adventure game. Neither of those approaches are wrong, and some developers might even go a step further and allow the user to decide for themselves. As for what we're expecting to be similar, well, load times so far, and quick resume. Or maybe not. So let's give that a shot. You got the stopwatch? 3, 2, 1. And cut.
Oh, 10 seconds.
10 seconds, all right. All right, 3, 2, 1.
8 seconds.
8 seconds. Well, never mind then. It looks like the theory holds true. Should we try Doom Eternal just to validate? Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
About the same, 10 seconds.
About the same 10 seconds, okay. Hey, there we go.
That was under 10 seconds.
Under 10 seconds? All right, so quick resume. A little faster on the S. Neat. The last thing I want to know about is acoustics. I was really impressed by how quiet the Series X was, even while gaming. And I have similar expectations for the S based on that it's got this giant cooling fan right here with nice, direct, easy access to fresh air, and also the fact that I'm holding it and it's super quiet and it's immediately obvious. It doesn't matter. They're both so quiet, you could be sitting right at your TV like this, and you would not notice that they're there. On the surface then, the conclusion here is pretty straightforward. If you're hardcore about your image quality and you want the best frame rates, spend the extra $200 because it is a noticeable difference going to the One X. If you had any doubt in your mind though, if you're like, maybe I don't care, or honestly, I was happy with the 30 FPS experience I was having on my last gen console, then maybe stick with your last gen console because there's like no new games, or go with the Series S. Where the water gets a bit muddier though, is in terms of features. This disk drive, if you were gonna play everything on Game Pass anyway, makes no difference. But if you're the kind of person who's into min-maxing your personal game collection with used games and things like that, this could pay for itself in the long term. Not to mention that because of the difference in storage capacity, 512 gigs versus 1 terabyte, if you know that you're gonna need additional storage, that's a $200 adder right now, so you might as well just get the additional storage up front along with the extra performance. The one thing I can say for sure though, is that if you're looking for a fantastic TV to pair with your next gen console, the LG C10, I cannot say enough great things about it. Never mind if the next gen console, if you just wanna watch movies, or you wanna game on a PC with an RTX 3000 or AMD Radeon 6000 series graphics card. This thing is flippin' awesome for all the reasons that I outlined before. So go check them out at the link in the video description. If you guys enjoyed this video, you might also enjoy the one where we pitted the Xbox Series X versus the One X to talk about what you're getting with the generational leap.